Hello, my name is Erica, and I'm the Dyslexic Trekkie. This video will be analyzing the series premiere of Star Trek Voyager. I will be looking through the lens of how its events impact Janeway's mental health, along with how the events impact her outlook on the fate of Voyager. I wish I had more time to go into aspects of this episode, but time is of the essence. If there is a point in the story I don't touch on here, I will likely come back to it in another video when it becomes relevant. The story begins with Captain Janeway taking command of the USS Voyager after a Maquis ship goes missing. Among the missing crew is her intended security officer. Captain Janeway enlists the help of Tom Paris, a former Starfleet officer who was dishonorably discharged and who joined the Maquis afterwards. His time with the rebel crew is short-lived. He is found on a penal settlement in New Zealand. Once the whole of the crew is introduced, the USS Voyager makes its way to the Badlands, a hostile part of space the Maquis are known to use to hide out. While tracing the steps of the lost ship, Voyager finds itself thrown across space into the Delta Quadrant. The ship is in disarray, much of the crew is injured, and key members of the crew are dead, most notably the commander and the doctor. While trying to effect repairs and the EMH emergency medical hologram attempts to help the injured, the crew disappears. The transported crew finds themselves on a farm where they are welcomed with iced lemonade, food, and unspeakable experiments. Who says hospitality is dead? Days later, the crew finds itself transported back to the Voyager, where the doctor has been trying to contact them from sickbay. The ship's computer and Paris inform them that Ensign Kim is missing. This is where I have to breeze past some key parts of the show. Suffice it to say, Janeway contacts the Maquis crew and creates a tentative alliance with their captain, Chakotay. The newly allied crews go back to the array to talk with the entities that took them. They get nothing but cryptic answers. Fortunately, they meet a trash collector who directs them to the nearby planet Akampa. There, they find out there is a race living under the surface of the desert planet to stay safe from the many hordes that, for some reason, live on this planet. That ore the Kazon mine must be valuable. After some bartering with the most valuable thing around, water, the crew manages to get custody of a young Akampan who helps them find out the fate of their crew. A little point of contention. Water is so valuable on this planet. Neelix has never even heard of a bath, even though he's from light years away. It's so valuable, the fact that the crew can create it makes them intensely in danger. Yet it's never an issue again in the show. It would have been an interesting point to come back to in the series. Maybe it could have been why the Kazon go crazy over getting the ship. In any case, the missing crew are found and retrieved, leading to more drama. The Akampa inform the missing crew, while they are gone, that the alien who abducted the crew is their caretaker. He's been sending them power enough to last them for years, something the population doesn't question. He's always taking care of them. After some more adventures, including Chakotay's ship being destroyed, the crew makes it back to the array orbiting the Akampa homeworld again. After some cryptic conversation, Tuvak works out that the entity known as the caretaker is dying. He had been trying to create offspring to take over his responsibilities for the Akampa, because it's his fault the planet is a wasteland. He's done all he could to prepare them, but when he dies, the array will be unguarded, and the technology will fall into the hands of the factions in the quadrant. The Guardian dies and leaves a rock as his corpse. Almost immediately, the array falls under attack. The Kazon fall on the array, leaving Voyager as the line keeping the Kazon from gaining control. They have two choices as far as Janeway can see. Leave with the help of the array, or destroy it, and their only sure way home. Janeway interprets the choice to leave as interfering with the balance in the quadrant. She can't justify saving 100 or so crew members if it endangers potentially trillions of Delta Quadrant inhabitants. This leaves Voyager with one mission now: go home. The combined crew now have to travel an estimated 75 years to make it back to their home quadrant. The episode ends with Captain Janeway ordering Helm to set course for home. One of the interesting points is that this is Janeway's first ship. She is a new captain taking charge of her first command. She's not even really starting her first real mission. She's just getting her chief of security who's undercover. Imagine how much that would suck. Here she is, newly made captain, getting her last crew member for her ship, and bam! Chucked across the galaxy like my dad hitting a hole-in-one on a par 4 golf course. Whatever else you say about Janeway or the show, her luck sucks right out the gate. I know this is just a literary choice to see the conflict created, but I'd like to take a moment to talk about the choice to bring Paris along for the first mission. It's a flimsy excuse. Paris wasn't in the Maquis for that long. Don't get me wrong, I like Paris, and I like that he defies the stereotype that Voyager characters don't have growth. But he's a criminal serving time, and he has a history of being disloyal to both Maquis and the Federation. So what's going on? Story-wise, I think Janeway wants to redeem her former captain's son. I think Tom does genuinely have something he can contribute to find Tuvok, but she also sees him as a lost man. Tom represents something that comes back with Janeway time and time again, and reflects on how she incorporates the Maquis. She sees his potential, even if he doesn't. The series starts with him being a 2-time screw-up. If he can successfully help retrieve Tuvok, then he'll get a fresh start. Oddly, she winds up giving him that on Voyager. I'm afraid parts of this are going to jump around the scenes quickly. One thing I always forget about Janeway is she was engaged at the beginning of the series. She leaves her dog behind with her fiancé. I like to think he kept the dog during her trip and returned her when she got back. There's this one bit in the series that no other captain would have to address. Traditionally, both male and female officers are addressed with Sir. Janeway makes it clear she isn't fond of that tradition. It's a fair point. A woman doesn't have to be called by a masculine title to be respected as a superior. The little dance over what title she would rather be called by is a reflection of the 90s culture change. She wants to be just captain, or ma'am, if things are in a pinch. The point when ma'am is okay is specific to the level of threat. I'm not sure this is relevant to her psyche, but it's a little moment that the show really had to do so the viewers knew how the show would address her womanhood. I guess it's only fitting that it's right after Janeway has an awkward conversation about how her fiancé knows how to please her. Both moments are awkward. Really, I'd hope the Federation would have dealt with this sort of thing by now. I have to jump forward a bit. The crew is now in the Delta Quadrant. My dad had his hole-in-one. The key members of the crew are dead. The injured have been addressed. We've met the doctor. And the crew are now on the fake farm in their welcoming bee. So there are some things Starfleet officers have been trained for. Janeway has historically done all she can do to keep her crew safe. It was necessary for the integration of the Maquis for key senior officers to die, but I think the fact that she lost those crew members affects Janeway more than we see. At this point, she's not had the chance to process it, and she won't be able to for quite a while. First, she has to be tortured in non-consensual scientific experiments. A subject I'd like to talk about in a future video. Did the caretaker commit mass rape? It's a small moment, but when we get back from seeing Ensign Kim and Torres with the Akampa, Captain Janeway is finishing her report, and we see her talk with Tuvok. I said in our history video that Janeway has a strong sense of responsibility to the people around her. Imagine feeling that, and knowing the youngest member of your crew, one who still has parents trying to make sure he gets his clarinet to practice, is missing. We also see she doesn't really take good care of herself. Tuvok has to remind her to sleep, a concern she first brushes off. I know I spent an inordinate amount of time on the friendship between these two, but I do love it. In the chaos of this episode, there is this one show of stability. No one else in the crew could tell Janeway to go take a nap. By rank alone, Tuvok hasn't the authority to tell her to get sleep. But he's not talking as a security officer. He's talking as a friend. It's the first real moment we see this. Okay, I have to say, I know a lot of people hate Neelix, but I love the first time Janeway meets him. However annoying some people think he is, watching Captain Janeway fight to keep a straight face, talking with him, is a perfect moment. The reality is Neelix, however annoying people think he is, keeps the crew alive. Kim and Torres wouldn't have been retrieved if it weren't for him. That doesn't keep him from conning both Janeway and the Kazon to get Kes. I think it becomes clear to Captain Janeway that she's well out of her element. She needs Neelix. She needs Kes. But most of all, she needs to understand the Delta Quadrant. These two can help her with that. So there's this point I see a couple of Star Trek YouTubers bring up. Janeway could have done a number of things to both destroy the array and get back to the Alpha Quadrant. The most viable idea I've heard is to set up some sort of timed detonation on the array to go off after they have left. There's a couple of issues with this idea. For one thing, they're working on the fly. If the other shows make one thing clear, it's that Starfleet works through committee. They come up with solutions by having senior staff or other relevant team members get together to talk about the issue until they can come up with the best plan. They're under attack when they discover the means to leave. Tuvak tells Janeway it'll take hours just to set it up. The crew is busy trying to make sure they don't get blown up by the Kazon, and they have enemy combatants on the ship from a war in their own quadrant. Remember, the Maquis truce is tentative at best at this time, and they just lost their own ship. In retrospect, the idea of setting up timed detonations on the array is logical, and likely would have been the best idea. But did they actually have the time and manpower to set it up? I don't really think so. Even if they did, there wasn't enough time to work out the best solution. They had two options in front of them: risk the lives of the Acampa and the whole of the Delta Quadrant to go home, or to keep those unable to defend themselves yet safe. When it comes to the Prime Directive, she was between a rock and a hard space. Do nothing, and she's helping the Kazon. Destroy the array, and she's interfering with the Kazon development. There really is no non-interference at this point. She's making the least bad of two wrong choices. But this moment is what haunts Janeway for the rest of the series. What do? Do you hold your ethics up over everything, or do you compromise to go home? Janeway chooses to hold her ethics above everything. She spends the next 7 years trying to make up for that. There's a few more things I'd like to talk about before I summarize this episode. First, I'll come back to Tom Paris. I think Janeway sees under his obnoxious front. There's no reason for the Paris he portrays to run back to save Chakotay. The uncaring, self-serving man he makes himself out to be wouldn't have wanted to rescue Kim. There's nothing in it for him in either situation. She sees that. I think he's her first attempt at rescuing a lost lamb, a point that will be relevant later on in the series. Then there's Kes and Neelix. Their request to come along is necessary from a writing standpoint, but strange from a personal point. Neelix is the captain of his own ship. He's home. He has the woman he loves. Why is he staying? I think he sees a better life for him and Kes. Janeway sees two people who have been invaluable so far. They want to help, and Voyager has no friends. They've already made enemies. The two actually wind up being a great investment, but in that moment you can see she's more amused by them than anything. Neelix and Kes also prove to be something else as well. Everyone is under her in rank. Tuvok is her friend and an old advisor to her, but that's the total sum of the people she can talk to on a personal level. Neelix and Kes are outside of rank. You see this later on when she talks with them. She is the captain, and she expects that respect from them, but she's not really their captain in the same way. She can talk personally with Kes. She can banter with Neelix. In the Alpha Quadrant, she could talk with other captains, but here she's alone. Kes and Neelix give her some semblance of a social equal. And lastly, there's the Acampa. I saw it stated that she does nothing to prepare the Acampa. They don't even know the caretaker is dead. She just leaves. Well, is that what happened? There's certainly enough time to try and contact them if they can. Perhaps once the Kazon left, they tried to send a message to the Acampa to tell them the caretaker was dead, and that they'd need to prepare to leave the city in 5 or so years. Sounds like no time at all. It is, except we later learn the Acampa have an accelerated ability to learn. They have to. How else could they have doctors or any other form of advanced learning? 9 years is barely enough time for humans to get any advanced degree. If given the information, they could learn how to harness solar power from the surface, or prepare better security to keep the Kazon out. So why didn't she? Well, I don't think we can say she didn't. There's clearly a passage of time between when they fight the Kazon and she gives her final speech. Yes, it would have been good for them to have brought it up, but we are under the constraints of the episode time. What scene should have been cut to add that to the log? It takes 11 seconds to say, we sent down a message to the Acampa to let them know the caretaker is dead and that they'll need to prepare for the day their power and food runs out. That's not a lot, but learning how to edit these videos has shown me how maddening it is to make something a set length. Was it in the script? I don't know. Did they forget the Acampa? it wouldn't be the first time that kind of mistake was made. But I don't think we can just assume she forgot to tell them. So where does that leave Captain Janeway when it comes to her mental health? Well, is she mentally ill? No, I don't think so. She has a hyper-developed sense of responsibility, something that serves her as a captain. There is actually a form of OCD that creates a sense of being responsible for everything, even if it's out of your hands. This creates an overwhelming sense of guilt. The problem is, she actually did make a choice that stranded the crew in the Delta Quadrant. She isn't taking responsibility for more than that. That guilt is what motivates her actions throughout the series, but I think that's why she's so determined to not waver from the Prime Directive and insist on maintaining the hierarchy even when the only thing holding it together is her crew's respect for her and the uniform. I think her inability to follow the Prime Directive also motivates her throughout the rest of the series. As I said, there was no way to stay out in that moment. Yes, she violates it on occasion, but again, she maintains it in times when it would have been easier to violate it. I don't agree with people who call her a psychopath. She makes hard choices. She makes the wrong choices. She makes lethal choices. She makes selfish choices from time to time, but she always tries to make the best choice for her crew, though clouded by her guilt. I think I could keep going for longer, but the real point is Janeway never forgets her guilt or her responsibility. Those are her driving forces. Thank you for watching. Please share any thoughts, feelings, or ideas you have on this episode in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Again, my name is Erica, and I'm the Dyslexic Trekkie. Among the missing crew is her intended science officer. Among the missing crew is her intended science officer? You are welcome to sit here, baby. Uh-huh. Ensign Bradbury would like to help out. Nope. You came here, and I know you. You're gonna go nuts. So you stay here. The Kazon fall on the array. The Kazon fall on the array. I hate the word array. 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 A ray. The combined crew now have to travel and successfully help retrieve Tuvak? I can't talk.